All right, as promised, here is my first experience printing out something on the Frozen Sonic Mega AKS. So I'm using speed resin for this project, and I kind of talked about it a little bit on the last video, but speed resin, to my knowledge, basically allows you to cure each layer at a much thicker layer, so it cuts down your print times like drastically. So when I ran the numbers on this, I want to say it was around 20 hours of print time had I printed this with regular resin. Using speed resin, I was able to get it down to under 4 hours. So I mean, it's an astronomical difference. Now you might be wondering, what's the downsides to it, or what's the catch? Now there is a slight catch to this, and the main thing is that because it's thicker layers, you're going to notice more layer lines in the print. So that does mean that you're going to have to do a little bit of more sanding and prepping before you can go to paint. Now, for very large items like this that does not have a ton of detail or texture in the item, it is not that big a deal at all. Where you're going to run into some issues at is if you have a bunch of details, or if you're printing something that's a little bit on the small side. And so again, that's what this resin is designed for. It is literally designed for very, very large items that is not hard to sand and smooth out and you know, get those layer lines out. Much smaller items, it's a little tougher to do that, and it's going to be a lot more noticeable in small items. So for me, I do a lot of large items that have like sort of a cartoony feel to it. So it's not a lot of texture in it, it's not a lot of detail. It's very, very much a smooth surface to begin with. And so me doing a lot of sanding isn't going to take away from what it looks like, or it's not going to take away from any detail or anything like that. I think it really falls into what I need this printer for. So yeah, the print did come out good. I did adjust the exposure time midway through the print, just because I was kind of getting a little bit more suction force. Not nothing to be really concerned about, but I wanted to see if I can kind of cut that down a little bit. So I dropped it, and it did create some visible lines in the middle. But again, this was a test piece, and so it wasn't really that big of a deal. Now, yes, I could have done a calibration test to get my exposure perfect. However, I wanted to see how easy it would be to get a completed print done straight out of the box without doing a bunch of exposure tests. All right, real quick, I did cure this print. I used that Elegoo curing station to the left there, but for whatever reason, I didn't record it. Okay, continue. Also, a lot of times those exposure tests doesn't equate to real world printing, because the print size and the print orientation can alter where your exposure times and your lift speeds and all that stuff should be at. All of that stuff can change as far as getting a successful print. And so I just decided to send it and see what happened, and by this being a test piece, that wasn't a big deal anyway. So there you go. Airbrushing is something else that I picked up over the last year or so, and it's been a big help with doing these 3D prints. It gives you a lot more flexibility and you know, a lot better finish in the end. But what you can see me doing here is putting some primer on. I did do a few coats of primer and sand it in between each coat. And for me, the hardest part with airbrushing so far has just been getting the ratios down pat when it comes down to reducing your paint. And I've gotten better over time, but it's definitely something you have to kind of eyeball. And yeah, it's been a learning experience in that aspect. But here you see me putting down a white base coat, and that's just going to kind of help the color pop a little bit. I think I did a few coats of this as well. The pink I'm using for the top part of the heart. Now, you're gonna see me spray the bottom portion, or the dripping portion of the heart. You're gonna see me also spray that with pink, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm gonna use a fluorescent purple color for the drips, and fluorescent paint fades over time, so they always recommend that you use a similar color as your base coat so that it's not as noticeable when it does fade. Again, I'm pretty new to airbrushing, so I didn't do the best job with trying to fill in this scarring on the heart, but I don't know. I guess it came out all right. So I decided to use a gloss top coat for the bottom portion, and then I just went with satin for the heart itself. So I knew from the beginning that I wanted to make the base out of wood. So fired up the CNC machine, and I used a piece of oak that I had laying around to make a simple round base for it. Alright, so we're just gonna wrap this up by coating this in a little bit of Odie's oil. So now again, this wasn't something that I put a lot of time into. This was more of just a test piece to kind of sharpen my skills, but it definitely helped out a lot. So hope y'all enjoyed. Hope it was, a little bit informative as to what to expect out of one of these machines or out of the process, and hope to see y'all on the next one.